Coming to you from the top of Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park, New Jersey, welcome to the Tim McLoone Radio Show, where each week we bring you interesting, creative, and dynamic people from the worlds of entertainment, sports, business, food, and philanthropy. Today's guests are the legendary guitarist and songwriter John Tropea.
He's here.
He's here, John Tropea. Then we have the president of the New Jersey Firefighters Mutual Benevolence Association, and more importantly for us, the creator of the Sandy Ground Where Children Play. That would be Bill Lavin. I'm Paul Diamede, and here's your host, Tim McLoone.
Thank you for faking enthusiasm, really. That almost sounded sincere.
Yeah,
what the hell have they been doing?
We pay them well.
Anyway, Paul, it's great to see you again, and thanks everyone for being here in Asbury Park, as you said, from the top.
From the top.
The second floor, all the way on the top.
It's a long way down.
This isn't exactly 30 Rock over here, you know? But we've had some interesting conversations the last few weeks, and I think that it's almost like a theme is happening. And one of the things that was I was noticing was, and of course I liked using the word ubiquitous, I'm going to use it again.
Just 'cause it's fun
but how
to use.
video is just permeating everything. And it's taking a more active role. And I think that we've had lots of videos around now. It's something we're used to. And, you know, YouTube and all the rest of it. But I think it's all of a sudden there's been some sort of a sea change, pardon the pun with the ocean out the window here. But we talked about the coach at Rutgers and how had there not been a video available of that story probably would have gone, it would have never been at the top of Brian Williams' nightly news. #1 story. Coach at Rutgers,
right.
You know, abuses kids. Also, North Korea is bombing us into oblivion. Back with more. It wouldn't have happened. And in all sensitivity to the situation up at Boston, because as we talked about, the first marathon and the last marathon I ever ran was the Boston Marathon. And I'm a long-time, you know, runner and whatever. I really believe that had there not been that kind of video, which we all saw, you know, over and over and over and over, I think that story would have become more of a regional story sooner, as opposed to really the #1 national story as it's been. So something local happened this week. I was at a baseball game, a JV baseball game, where my son is on the team. And there was a brawl at the varsity game. We weren't there, which is the key element of the story, is I wasn't there. And a brawl broke out between a couple of kids. There was a play at the plate, and it was, you know, the kid lower, he tried to bowl him over, right, and whatever, something happens. And the other part of this story is that a father allegedly came out onto the field and struck one of the kids. And was arrested there, and you know, we'll see how that all plays out. And my point is, there's no video. Had there been video of that incident, it's the #1 story on ESPN. Mm-hmm. It may even be on all the news broadcasts, but since there's no video, it's not that big a story.
Right.
You know, stuff goes on every day, and it seems like the determination of how important it is now is directly connected to, is there video available? No one's going to talk about that on television unless they can show it to you.
Well, that's why we're recording tonight, in case a brawl breaks out and you hurt me.
And you know, knock me from the piano, as you have so many times before. And by the way, as if I'm not pasty looking enough, we need these bright lights, you know. Yeah. I don't have any hair as it is, and now it's like I'm reflecting over to Lakewood from here with
both,
this. But
Tim, you and I both.
No, you're just being nice to me. but at any rate, and then that started me thinking, and I was speaking to, and when I start thinking, as we all know, nothing good happens. And I was talking to our good friend who was one of our guests earlier, Jack Ford, who's the legal correspondent for CBS News, and I was saying to him, his son was a terrific lacrosse player in high school. And Colin was really undersized, though, and used to love to go right in the middle of the field and got belted all the time. Because he was, you know, a really good scorer, and it was legal, and there was nothing. But Jack had to sit in the stands, and I sat with him and watched this as his son is getting clobbered game after game. Well, it happened, there was one game when he got a goal late in the game, and it was kind of turning the game around. And somebody took a run at him a few seconds after the goal was scored, and he didn't know it was coming, and he was really injured. And so Jack ran out on the field. And, you know, the official tried to stop him. He said, "That's my son lying out there. You know, don't really be trying to stop me right now. This isn't going to end well for either of us." But it made me wonder. My son plays basketball, my other son, and it's close quarters at basketball. And if I saw my son in a fight and he was getting the worst of it, I don't know. How am I to criticize somebody else without being there, first of all? Now, I can promise you, I wouldn't be going out there with any kind of evil, because I would get the worst of whatever was happening. But I might go out there and pull somebody off. And I just think before we judge other people, it's just you have to wonder about it. But then that got me thinking back in my checkered career. I used to work for Roller Hockey International. And this was a brief attempt to have semi-NHL players on plastic wearing rollerblades.
Who talked you into this?
I believe there was a check involved, however, and I go cheap. I mean, how much is it? I'm good. I love this sport. And what I noticed about it was that, first of all, these guys were horrible to each other. They're all guys who basically got a cup of coffee in the NHL, or their careers were over or whatever. And the swearing, and half of the swearing was in French, but I was figuring it out. I mean, it wasn't that hard to figure out what they were saying to each other. But there was just all this belting going on all the time, fights every 38 seconds, settling old scores or just having fun. And what would happen was there would be youth games after this, and the youth games would come out, and you were watching 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds pounding each other,
emulating the guys
getting
that came
into
before
fist fights.
Right.
And not only that, but it was all of them, and in some cases with a smile on their face, that they were getting to emulate the older guys. And isn't that special? Yeah. It's why I always say I'm glad I'm in the sport of cross country and track and field, because we're just the nerds, and the kids I coach hate when I say things like that.
Not a lot of full contact in cross country.
But there's another coach in the room, Coach Virgo over there. But, we know that when we see the kids in the fall to start cross country, I always tell them and their parents, if your child is not a nerd yet, by the time we're done with them in 4 years, they will be a nerd. And,
that's awful.
And we're happy about it, though, Well, at any rate, so I've been getting requests, not really plural. There was this one person who said they would like me to play a song and sing on the air. So we're going to see how this goes. But I figured I'm not just going to do any old song, though. I've got to pick something special. And this song was my parents' song. And I can remember, the one part I don't remember, I can't remember if it was an MGM label, and I think it was yellow. But it was a 45, and it played in our house all the time, back in the late 50s. And it went to #1, but I thought it was really a cool thing about this song that people wouldn't know. It was called It's All in the Game by Tommy Edwards, but it was the music was written by Calvin Coolidge's vice president in 1912, which I think is amazing. And he also, you told me...
Well, his name is Charles Dawes.
Charles Dawes, but you told me that he also won the Nobel Peace Prize.
He's the only person to have a #1 pop hit who is a vice president and won a Nobel Peace Prize, which is a kind of odd combination.
Jay-Z had won a Nobel Peace Prize. I could have sworn he won one. No, not really.
I don't think so. Lady Gaga, maybe, but...
Well, at any rate, he writes this song back then, and it wanders through like operettas and different stuff. And then this other man, I had to look this up. His name was Carl Sigman, wrote the lyrics in 1958, and it goes to #1. And I just thought, Calvin Coolidge's vice president wrote this thing? But the weird part was that I hadn't heard this song in 100 years, and it popped in my head one day when I was driving around that it was my parents' song, and it was always playing in our house. And I played it with my band the first time, and my bass player turns to me, not knowing any of that, and Mark says,
Mark Murphy.
"You were born to sing that song."
Wow.
Many a tear has to fall, but it's all in the game. All in the wonderful game that is known as love. You have words with him, and your future's looking dim. But these things, your hearts can rise above. Once in a while he won't call, but it's all in the game. Once in a while he won't call with that sweet bouquet. Then he'll kiss your lips and caress your waiting fingertips. Then your heart will fly away.
Broadcasting
for
from
Joe and Marie McLoone.
Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park, New Jersey. Listen to us every Saturday at 5 p.m. on WR. Coming up next, the legendary guitarist and songwriter, John Tropea. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Tim McLoone Radio Show from Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park. And now, here's your host, Tim McLoone.
Well, thanks very much, Paul. And speaking of Paul, you can hear the strains of a very recognizable Paul Simon song in the background. And it has a guitar intro that was played by our next guest, and that is the one and only John Tropea. John, thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
So I have to... As John pointed out, he said he was worried about doing this because he prefers to play rather than talk. And he said he realized after watching our first segment, he wouldn't have to be doing any talking. But
Am I done?
But I have to tell people about this. This is important stuff, though. Is that when I was just starting out playing music, and so it's in the early 70s.
Don't try to tell him that you're that much younger than me.
Because I'm not. I'm older than everybody in this room except you. So at any rate, I was hanging with my friends, my musical friends, and that was, Mike the Judge and Artie B and who was it, Todd from Barnacle Bills. We would go into the city, and an amazing thing was happening in music at the time in New York City, and that's all these jazz cats. And I'm allowed to say jazz cats because that's the only time I ever used the term cat.
The term cat.
But they were all crossing over into kind of this pop, rock, jazz mix of stuff. And so we would follow John Tropea all around the city at places like McKell's, and where else were you playing back in those days?
7th Avenue South.
Yep. I think we were kicked out of there one
Bottom
night.
Line, Birdland.
And all these places had cover charges. It was really a nuisance. But
it was crazy.
But at any rate, so I'm following John around, and now my band is playing John Tropea material. We're doing all this stuff,
It's not paying any royalties, by the way.
No royalties.
So we're doing this for years, and we opened this club in Asbury a few years ago called McLoone Supper Club, and I get a phone call one day, and I pick it up, and is this Tim McLoone? I said, yeah. He said, this is John Tropea. And I paused, and I'm like, John Tropea? And I said, John Tropea, the guitar player? And he goes, you know me? And I said, do I know you? And I said, I owe you like $120,000 for stealing your material. But what I said to him actually was, do I know you? I say, G major 7 over E. Whatever that thing was. That was the Eyewitness News theme, which he also wrote. But it was just like, now there's this pause on the other end of the phone. It's like, who the heck have I just called, And I'm a nutty club owner, so...
I actually thought it was a joke by Kenny Morgan.
Yeah, so he was looking for a gig, and here we are. And thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I think there's many interesting things about you, and not the least of which is who you play with. But you started out, and you did go to Berklee School of Music, right?
Yes.
And when you did that, what did you think your career was going to be? Berklee School of Music, for those of you who don't know, up in Boston, it's an intense place. The movie and TV show Fame. This is the musical version of that. It's a music school, a very intense place with a lot of insecure people who make other people more insecure about their abilities or lack thereof. That was always my reflection on that. But what did you think was going to happen for you?
I tell you, when I got up there, I studied guitar 3 times a week since I was 12, and I was a pretty good guitar player at the time. And
you're not bad now either.
Well, I kind of went downhill a bit. I knew the guitar, but they were taking students that knew 3 chords, and in 2 weeks they were bounced out. So it was like I couldn't get a grasp on what was going on.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, from the first week I was up there, I started working with this R&B group, and then with the 3 Degrees before they made it big. So I'm playing 7 nights a week with the 3 Degrees and my other band, and I'm learning how to write for Count Basie. and Ellington, and because in those days, in the '60s, that's what they taught.
Yeah.
It's not like it is today. Now they have, class on effects pedals. But in those days, it was real music. You really studied music.
Yeah.
And I had no idea where I was going to wind up. I knew I'd be a guitarist.
Well, the thing I thought was interesting about having you on is that you are, and I mean this as high praise, you're like
You're
the
not going
ultimate.
to get serious now, are you?
No. You are the ultimate sideman. I mean, that's most people. If I say to them, I talked to John Tropea the other day, they're not going to have name recognition. I mean, you had some hit records back in the '70s, but they're not going to know that. But the stuff you did, and I keep saying the word "stuff" because that was one of the bands too that we followed around. And I loved
the band.
Yeah, I loved Richard T.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, he was the keyboard player of keyboard
So
players.
did I,
And
yeah.
I just would go see him, and then I'd quit music the next day. But it was just like, oh man, I'm never doing that.
Chick Corea studied Richard T.
Is that right?
Chick Corea, they all couldn't get what he was doing.
Well, Richard was playing kind of gospel, rock, R&B, jazz.
Yeah,
if
he had
that sort of covers
a
it.
number one feel.
Oh,
And I don't know if you're familiar with one of the tunes on my record called, my first record was The Brat. It was in 7/8/4/4, and we were playing the Beacon Theater. And everybody thought he just was a feel.
you just lost everyone, by the way, with 7/8/4/4, but that's okay,
Well, anyway,
including me.
everybody thought he just played feel.
Yeah.
He sight read it because he never made the sound check.
Oh, really?
So he was a real.
No, he was the
heavy-duty
real
musician.
deal. He made that Fender Rhodes piano like this.
Yeah.
To my mind, for all the crossover artists, he's the guy that invented it. Because when you listen to records back then, and this was the precursor, people like George Benson, who was a student, and even before that, Nat King Cole, who everyone thinks of as a singer. Nat King Cole was a killer piano player and a studio guy. And it was only later on, after he'd been singing around in the studio, somebody said, you really ought to do something with that.
Right.
And George Benson, the same way. George Benson, I remember listening just to his guitar song with no singing. And what happened was Chuck Mangione and George Benson, all these people start exploding on the scene, and people, it's sad that no one will ever listen to that now. It would never happen now, and it's just a shame. We're in such a niche kind of world. Do you say niche or niche?
Niche,
I've always been confused by that. But
Italians say niche.
I guess I got it wrong.
that everything's kind of labeled and it's down this narrow path, and back then it was just all this crazy music exploding. And what made it great was people like yourself, John, who were just such literate players. It wasn't just some guy picking up a guitar and playing 3 chords and maybe putting that A minor. I've got 4 chords now. But, it wasn't like that. You guys were bringing the jazz sensibility to rock and roll to some extent.
Yeah. And don't forget, we were also, any given day, we were sitting next to the Brecker brothers, Richard T., myself, Spinoza, and everybody's kind of absorbed each other.
Yeah.
Some guys were better jazz players, some guys were better R&B players, and you couldn't help but you got homogenized in your playing.
I apologize for asking you this, but the idea
67.
No. The idea of the starving artist, starving musician. Were you making any money doing that stuff? I apologize.
Studio work?
Well, in general, just when you were doing studio and you're trying to do your own records and you're trying to play live, but the places in the village were paying like $25 a head.
We never made any money playing live. We still don't.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing,
particularly when you play here.
Unless you're doing concerts. If you're doing concerts, it's a different thing. But if you're playing your music that comes from here, everybody's getting the same.
By the way, this is radio, so when you tap your chest, it's not working.
There's a crowd out there. Anyway, what was the question?
I have no idea. I was asking if you were making any money.
As a studio musician?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely.
But was that coming from the labels? I mean, because the artists weren't paying either, right?
From the labels. And we were also doing commercials, jingles, and I was writing a lot of commercials, like Pizza Hut and stuff like that.
So who were you playing with back then, and even now? I mean, all the
back in
names
the '70s.
Well, your whole career. I mean, you've worked with so many well-known people.
Starting with Chuck Rainey.
Yeah.
Great bass player. Billy Cobham, drummer. All the cats in New York were like doing 15 record dates a week. I mean, we were going from one studio to another. Will Lee.
Who's the bassist on Letterman.
Will's been here at the Supper Club.
He plays with my band.
With John, yeah. And the Blues Brothers.
Yep. We got
now
the Blues Brothers manager here and Blues Brothers lead singer with us.
Really? So, did it ever bother you that it wasn't John Tropea per se. I mean, your album, the first one I believe, was called Tropea. That was. Did you give that a lot of thought?
Well, I picked up the guitar when I was around 11 years old, and it was around the time that when I first wanted to be a guitarist was when Hound Dog was a hit.
Wow.
And I said to my father, I want to be the guy who plays on the record, not on stage, because I remember seeing a show, Nat King Cole #1, and also some studio scenes in the studio.
Wow.
And my father knew Al Caiola and Tony Mottola, because he used to have a gas station in New York and he used to pick up their cars. And he told me, he said, well, these guys are going from one studio to another, and they have the beeper on them, or some kind of a thing that would tell them, you know.
Who knows then?
And it stuck with me, and I said, that's what I want to do.
Isn't that interesting? Because I mean, that's a very different path.
I never wanted to play on stage. I did, because we played in bands, you know, sock hops and stuff like that.
Sock hops, there you go.
Remember that? That's how old I am.
Now that's how old you are. You just did it right there, John. But that never, I mean, the ego side of it never really bothered you in that regard.
No, not really.
You never wanted to be the
I always
front
liked
guy.
being the guy behind the scenes.
Because I think one of the things that always was a mark of your bands is you always had the greatest players.
Yeah.
And you shared on the stage too, which is, you know, that's a jazz mentality. That's not a rock and roll mentality. There's very little sharing in rock and roll.
Yeah.
You know, there's usually just fighting. But you know, why'd he get that solo? But for you, it's that whole jazz sensibility of people playing together. Really,
Sure.
It's so funny. You know, we call it playing music, and very rarely do we really think about what those words actually mean. We're playing, you know? And is there any better feeling in the world than to be with musicians that you respect? I mean, I love my band. The Shirleys, you know, that we do our thing. And when we play together, it
shows,
has truly become like a family thing.
Yeah.
And the people you play with are outrageous.
Well, I always like to equate it to, it's like hitting the sweet spot when you play golf. When you play and you have a good night or a good week, whatever it is, I mean, if you have arthritis, the pain goes away for a few days.
Yeah.
It's like it's a sweet spot. It's what we all want to do.
See, I can't relate to hitting the sweet spot in golf because I just never do that.
Oh, neither do I.
I have clubs, and
I did it once by accident.
I'm often seen walking on a green place that has holes, and you're supposed to put the ball in. Oh, it's like, I'm surprised that the PGA hasn't actually barred me for just too many divots. Just stop him. He's destroying courses. Well, listen, John Tropea, listen, thank you so much. And we're going to hear some music from you later on. But thanks for being our guest today. John Tropea,
thank you for having me.
World-class guitar player.
For those of you who just joined us, you're listening to the Tim McLoone Radio Show from Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park, New Jersey. We will be right back after this. Welcome back to the Tim McLoone Radio Show from Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park, New Jersey. Don't forget, if you'd like to be a member of our live audience, go to timmcloonradioshow.com. The show is free to attend. We offer a full menu and bar and a great wine list, so come on out and be part of the show. All the members of the show will receive a special gift. Tonight we have saltwater taffy, which is kind of fun. They get gifts and everything. For reservations, go to timmcloonradioshow.com. And now, here's your host, Tim McLoone.
They get saltwater taffy?
Saltwater taffy.
I still complain, but there were just certain flavors that didn't work for me. I worried when they had a stripe in them.
Don't like the
stripe thing. That was just anyway. Bill Lavin, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I was telling our studio audience here, our club audience, that you got a nice round of applause when we were off the air when you came up, but people really don't know who you are. And I told them when they find out who you really are, they would be really excited. And I'll tell you this, that the first thing that confused me is that you're a firefighter and you were born in Elizabeth. You were not born in Jersey City. How did that happen?
No, Elizabeth.
You know, they're all from
bred.
Jersey City. So is my wife's family. And my wife, you're ninth of 11 kids, right?
Correct.
My wife was 10th of 11. And she wants you to know that 10th is so much a better place to be than 9th.
Okay.
Just in case that's a problem for you.
I hear you.
In her case, though, what happened was she was the 10th and last for 4 years. And then number 11 showed up. And it didn't go well. That's all I'm telling you here. But at any rate, so you spent your young years as a firefighter working in Elizabeth?
Yes, Elizabeth for 25 years. Yep.
I mean, I think that everyone in this room, it's sort of interesting how, sadly, mostly because of 9/11, that people's attitudes about what you did for a living and still do in some ways, is much more appreciated now than it was then. Was it difficult being a young guy being a firefighter? What was it like?
Well, I came on a little later in life. I was 30 when I came on. So
how'd that happen? What were you doing before the firefighter?
I was doing a bunch of different things. Restaurant management, working in the food industry and things. Yeah. But my dad was a firefighter. My two brothers are firefighters. I have a brother that's a police officer. So they eventually convinced me, and
you just hadn't come around yet.
Sooner or later, I had to do it. So.
Well, we mentioned here that you're the president of New Jersey Firefighters Mutual Benevolent Association, and you're the former president, I guess, of the FMBA.
Correct.
But the reason you're here with us, and also I love the thing, you started the Fallen Heroes 5K. I didn't realize that after 9/11.
Right.
Tell us about that.
Well, yes.
Yeah, that deserves a big round of applause.
Yeah, after 9/11, we wanted to make sure that people did not forget and continue to honor the families and raise some funds for the benefits to the widows and children, and not just what happened there, but to all firefighters' families who come down with all kinds of illnesses. It's because of the nature of the job. So we started the year after. We just celebrated our 11th year, and every September, around the 11th, we have a 5K race. It's now held in Lake Como, right near Belmar there, and so that's been a great thing for us, and it just keeps people, thoughtful of what took place that day.
Well, I have to tell you before we get to the not the real reason why we have you here, but you and I have something else in common, actually. We also call this show 6 Degrees of Tim McLoone. And the fact that you were the Irishman of the Year from the Friendly Sons, so was I. And you were the Grand Marshal of the which one? Union County.
Union County.
Same. I was the Grand Marshal this year of the Rumson First Annual St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Very good.
That was horrible, actually, and it was a great parade. But knowing everybody's looking at you. And I'm wearing the sash.
Yeah, it's a little. It's actually a full-time job to be as you probably learned, making all the rounds, the council meetings, and the freeholder meetings.
I didn't do any of that stuff.
Okay.
I was just walking down the street, and I'm thinking they're all saying, "God, Tim McLoone's really gotten old." I remember when I used to see him when I was a kid. He is not wearing well. But at any rate, and I do want to take all kidding aside because your current project is something that affects us down here. But please tell everyone about it.
Well, originally after Hurricane Sandy hit, we, as we do with our foundation, would respond to emergencies. So our 5,000-member organization adopted some coastal communities and started to work down in places like Asbury Park and Seabright and Ocean City, all along the coast. And we just thought we were starting to get our feet back under us, and Newtown, Connecticut happened, and it shocked the nation, and pretty much all of our efforts stalled. December 14th, when the Newtown massacre occurred, and we lost 26 beautiful lives, children and teachers there. So it took us a while to kind of figure out what we were going to do and how we would proceed, because our efforts stalled considerably. And I received an email actually an email video from Mississippi, of all places. Now, 7 years ago, after Hurricane Katrina, we had built 3 playgrounds in Mississippi for the children there. It actually goes back to 9/11, and not to belabor, but after September 11th and the New Jersey firefighters responding there, a 3rd grade class in Mississippi sent us cards and letters to support us.
Wasn't that amazing down there? Because our group, Holiday Express, went down there after Katrina too, and it's interesting that you went to Mississippi because so much attention was given to New Orleans, but Mississippi was devastated.
Mississippi actually was hit by, it was a tsunami, what it turned out to be.
We went to that place, Pass Christian.
Yes.
It was called, which was really, and people were saying, where are you going? And every time we mentioned it, they'd say, oh, ground zero.
Right.
Where it was like literally a 30-something foot tsunami went through.
Exactly.
And wiped out the city. That's
and
amazing.
the town right next door to that was North Bay Elementary School in Bay St. Louis. Wow. So we got these letters, and then thought it was a good thing, and it encouraged and inspired us. But then 4 or 5 years later, the hurricane hits, and we were very concerned as to what happened to the children who had reached out to us. So the whole story is a pay it forward. Yeah. So we go down, we build 3 playgrounds. It was one of the greatest experiences of our life, very rewarding. And then Hurricane Sandy hits us. So this little girl in this video said to us, and again, now Sandy had taken place, and the Newtown shooting, which devastated everybody. So this little girl's in the video, and she says, thank you to the New Jersey firemen who built this playground for me that I've been playing on for the last 3 years. So we wanted to do something for you and pay it forward. They were collecting gifts for the children of New Jersey all along the coast. So Mississippi children paid it forward to us. And she said something else there. She said, but thank you for a bigger gift of not forgetting about us and caring so much about us. So it was then with the playgrounds and the hurricane, Sandy Hook Elementary School, Sandy Hook, New Jersey, Hurricane Sandy. So I got the idea that we should build 26 playgrounds along the coast of New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut. While rebuilding those communities, we would also dedicate those playgrounds to the lives of those that we had lost in Newtown. So the program is just really taking place. I was in Connecticut actually today, and our third playground has been built. This one was in honor of Catherine Hubbard. And ironically, I just found out that Asbury Park will be a site for one of our 26
Really?
playgrounds. Yeah.
Wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I remember when you did Seabright's, and we've talked on the air here before. We have a restaurant there, or I should probably put it in past tense, but
Exactly.
we had a restaurant there. We'll see what happens with it. But that was one of the first ones you built was actually Seabright's, and I believe Seabright has about 1,400 residents, but there's only 500 there right now, 900 displaced people, and
Right.
you know how it is in this country, and I guess around the world, who knows, but things go away, people forget, and you're doing this, I think, is remarkable. And what gave you the idea about a playground? That's the part that gets me, because everybody can have, well, I shouldn't say that, lots of people can have good impulses, but the idea of a playground, and what do you call those playgrounds?
It is the Sandy Ground Project Where Angels Play.
Where Angels Play.
It's Where Angels Play. And, well, we got the idea, first and foremost, in Mississippi once again.
Yeah.
When I visited the school in Bay St. Louis, this was 6 months after the storm, and it looked like the storm had just happened. And the teachers and the students there were all of one mind. The children had no place to play. And regardless of whether the moms and dads, and just like here, are struggling to decide whether to rebuild or, you know, if there's devastation and trying to pay the bills and how to figure things out, children need a place to play. The kids need to be kids. So they said, I said, what do you need here? And they said, a playground. So we learned in Mississippi that a playground is more than just a structure. It's a symbol of hope, recovery. When you see a new playground coming out of the ground, such as Seabright or in Union Beach, which is our second one, it's a symbol of hope and recovery, that community, and a message that this community is coming back. And you know, kids are, you know, you hear kids laughing and playing on a playground. It's just a great, it's a symbol of hope.
I know when you dedicated the playground at Seabright, one of the families from Newtown was here with you. Have you met with all of them?
Just about all of them, yes. Yeah. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do, it was to originally meet the families and you know, give our condolences to them and explain the project. And it's very, very emotional. But while it was the most difficult meetings, I would tell you that the most humbling and inspiring meetings that I've ever had with people. They're so strong in faith. Most of the time I was up there would be a snowstorm, and one of the moms would tell me that, you know, on your way home, don't worry about a thing, because their grace would be watching over me. And they said it to me as if, you know, this piano is black, you know, with conviction. So, and that was just one of many, many wonderful comments and stories. The one theme that the parents have allowed us to do this was the fact that they've been offered, I think 70,000 teddy bears were sent to Newtown, Connecticut, which is a nice gesture, but, you know, doesn't have a whole lot of meaning to them. And they were offered trips, cruises, money, and the one mom said, you know, nothing made sense, that they lost their child and they're receiving this, but a playground named after their child, built with the personality of the child and the spirit of the child, built by family members, was the most appropriate way that they could think of to honor their child for years to come. So,
well, Bill Lavin, people hearing this story right now who would be inspired to help you, how can they do that?
Well, we have a website, thesandygroundproject.org. People can go there to donate. We have about 7 to 8 now playgrounds funded. We have a long way to go. It's approximately a $3 million project. These will be built, by the way, with no government money, with all private donations and hopefully, some corporate money. And as shows like this allow me to speak about it, we're starting to get the buzz. We've received money from as far away as Calgary, Alberta, from Wisconsin, from Florida, from Texas, and it's just humble. It's not me. My members are really the ones that are helping to build this. The communities that allow us to do this there. It's a coordinated effort. This Saturday, we'll be in Union Beach to cut the ribbon on Jack Pinto's playground. That young man was buried in Victor Cruz's jersey. He was a Giant fan. I remember. So his playground, which was built in part by his older brother Ben, who we give a tool belt to all the kids and they participate in the actual build. That playground is in the shape of a football in blue and white and red in Giant colors, and we'll have his an 80 jersey with his name on it there. So
wow, that's
it's
wonderful.
a pretty special project. Yeah. So.
Well, appropriate applause here. You said during the course that you said that like shows like this that allow you to come on and talk about this. I can only tell you, and I'm sure I speak for everyone in our studio audience here and also listening to us right now, that it's an honor to have you here, and we are so grateful for what you're doing. Bill Lavin, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. We're going to take a little break. You're listening to the Tim McLoone Radio Show from Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and we will be right back after this. And now, here's your host, Tim McLoone.
Can I have some batch 19, please? And we are here, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot hold the secret any longer. We are here now with Steve the bartender.
Back
Hello,
by
Steve.
popular demand.
Hi, Tim.
One person said, when is Steve coming back on? And it was his mom. So we said, all right, let's do this thing. Steve, we've done movie reviews with you in the past, but you are one of the most eclectic, if you can be most eclectic, like most unique. You are one of the most eclectic people I've ever met in my life. You also do reenactments, like Civil War, or what reenactments do you do?
No, I don't do Civil War. I do.
Is that like beneath you, Civil War stuff, or the way you say that?
No, it's
Those Civil War people. Oh, they're such amateurs.
a lot of my friends do Civil War, but it's like political. Everyone gets really aggressive and really.
Oh, no.
There's a lot of hurt feelings between the North and the South. It's like a war.
Alive with, okay.
Yeah.
And you don't want hurt feelings, something fun like a reenactment.
Yeah.
And particularly if you have a musket in your hand. And God
Even
only knows.
the reenactments I do, people are always getting hurt feelings. It's just for fun. Some people
Now,
take it way too.
What do you do?
I do like Elizabethan reenactments,
Really?
like Anglo-Saxon, Great Britain, like a lot of older stuff. My friends are all musketeers. I do heavy armor fighting, like full plate mail. I haven't recently, but about 5 years ago, I used to do jousting for a couple seasons.
Like real jousting?
On a horse.
Yeah.
How does that work?
It's
Painfully, I would think.
It's a point system. There's first to 5 points. 2 points if you get hit in the chest. 3 points in the head. 1 point for an arm or a leg. 5 instant win if you're knocked off your horse.
Oh, that's fabulous. This is not medieval times, clearly, we're talking about here.
Have you ever been knocked off of your horse?
Almost every time. I'm not the best on horseback.
No.
Is it dangerous? I mean, seriously, is it dangerous to do?
Yeah. When I was doing it, I didn't see it, but there was a guy at another tournament at the same time before we all met up. He died from heart failure. It hit him so hard.
So
it caused a mutter, stutter, whatever it is. It literally shoved like air in his heart. And
I would think that makes this categorized as serious.
Wow. We were having fun till that happened.
It's like,
but actually,
Steve, you don't tell these stories to your customers, do you? Steve works here at our supper club and downstairs in the Asbury Grill.
We all sign off on papers that release like any liability when we're having the event. As a prize pool, it's a purse. But
really?
Yeah.
You can win money at these things?
Yeah, it's just everyone that competes puts money in, and then a portion of it goes to wherever grounds we're jousting on, and there's usually first, second, and third.
But as far as the Elizabethan part goes, I mean, now I'm thinking like Shakespeare. Is there anything musical to it? I mean, is it also pretty and nice? Or
yeah.
So far, it just sounds like a bunch of guys beating up on each other on the weekend. It's the predecessor of paintball. You know? It's like
most events are 3-day events, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
And the first 9-10 hours of the day are like the Elizabethan stuff. Eating food, listening to like classical music from the time period, and just relaxing. It always ends with a joust. It's usually the last hour to hour and a half of event. But
no, it actually always ends with the ambulance leaving, I believe, from the way you've been describing this to me.
There are times. But no, it's always a fun time. I always try to have a fun time. I never try to get hurt feelings. I never try to go for blood.
Sure.
But there are people who have been doing it for like 25 years. I just want to hurt all the young guys doing it. They're like...
And where does this take place?
Pennsylvania, upstate New York, Virginia, and Maryland.
Really? I mean, is there like a hotbed of reenactments of Elizabethan time?
Is
there one place that's like the mecca of Elizabethan reenactments?
We're this area, these like 5 states, Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, that's like the hub. That's where the most important events happen.
Is there one in New England called the Big M or something like this?
There are a couple in New England. There's a couple in every state. Some are smaller, some are larger. Ours is the biggest. It's called Markland. It's 5 states all competing for one actual crown. And after it's all over, there's one king.
Steve the bartender, you never fail to amaze. It's unbelievable. Of course, we said we were going to talk about a movie, and so I said, what do you want to talk about? He says, well, I'm going to go see Iron Man tonight. So we're not going to do a preview, but next time you're here, maybe we'll talk about what you thought of Iron Man.
Yeah.
Steve the bartender, ladies and gentlemen, sharing more intimate things from his life. Thanks so much, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, guys.
You're listening to the Tim McLoone Radio Show from Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park, New Jersey.
I found the setting.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Tim McLoone Radio Show with your host, Tim McLoone.
I had to find the Elizabethan setting on the piano for Steve the bartender. Well, this is the scary part of the show where we actually encourage people to ask me questions. And we have certain rules about this. No states and capitals. And my favorite color is blue. So just so we clear that stuff up, so please tell us who you are.
Okay, Joanne Crescio, and I'm kind of blue because I want to know, when is the Rum Runner going to reopen? Your
All right,
first
sit
restaurant.
No. So our restaurant in Seabright, we alluded to it earlier, and it's just a difficult thing. I mean, like a lot of people on the Jersey Shore, we are experiencing what many people here are experiencing, which is the insurance payout was significantly less than we thought we were going to get. We don't know what the rules are yet. Is someone going to say you have to go 8 feet in the air? We had 5 feet of water in the building, so wouldn't we be foolish if we didn't go to at least 5 feet 2 inches or something? So it's just not clear what we're going to do yet. What we're doing right now is we're fixing the bulkhead, because when our deck went into the river, it pulled the bulkhead with it. So we're fixing that. We're going to make it into a site, and then we're going to figure. And quite honestly, people down here have been offering to buy it from us, just a lot.
Oh, don't.
Well, okay, then I just changed my mind.
Okay.
Your lips.
I'm so happy.
Well, we have other choices, we hope, but...
Okay, well, I'm 5'4", so if you have to go up 5'2", go 5'4". I'll never forget it.
You can just stand out there, and we'll just start over your head. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. I'm a little worried about this next question here. Who
Why
are
you
man?
so worried? Why? Come on. I'm Maureen Nevin, and I am the radio voice of Asbury Park.
Hi, Maureen. How are you?
I had the other radio show. Thank you.
You're more popular than I am. That was a much more lusty round of applause. Must be the hair.
I just wanted to compliment you on the job that you're doing. I wish I had had this kind of overhead for my show. We had kind of, we actually did do script things. You know, we did script the shows, but, you know, we had like 2 people working on it, so...
well, these people are all being fired shortly, so I wouldn't get attached to any of them.
First.
Really?
I wouldn't get attached.
Taxes are coming in, I know. But what made you decide to do a radio show from Asbury Park? And I'm glad that you're here.
Well, there was 2 reasons. One is that I was one of those knucklehead kids that was listening to a transistor radio late at night and listening to WOR, quite frankly.
I wasn't on back then.
No,
okay, I just
you're
want to be
significantly
clear about
younger
that.
than I am. But I was listening to Barry Gray and Barry Farber and Gene Shepard and all these people, and I thought they were amazing. And, you know, it was just, I always thought I was going to do it, and I never did. I mean, I had a couple of opportunities, and I would have had to have moved to Pittsburgh and stuff, and I wasn't ready to do that. So when the opportunity came, we thought the best place to be really was in Asbury Park. I think this town has a magical pull for people, and I think everyone's rooting for Asbury Park. And if what we do here is 1/10 of 1/100th of 1% to help that, then I'm all about it. No, but thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Tim.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. So far, nobody's gotten hurt, but this could be it.
All right.
Hello.
Here we go.
And you are?
I'm Kathy Walter, and my question is, well, we participated in the Special Olympics for the last maybe over 15 years.
Yeah.
First hosted at Point Pleasant, then we moved to Seaside, and because of Sandy, we moved then to Long Branch. And we celebrated after the plunge at the McLoon's in
The plunge.
And I wondered
the dreaded
how you enjoyed our presence at the McLoon's after the polar bear plunge this year.
And how many people did you have at that polar bear plunge?
Well, we had thousands, but
Yes, you did.
our group was the polar bear deep freezers, and we've done this many years. I wondered how you enjoyed our presence in Long Branch this year.
Well, first of all, saying Special Olympics, and for anyone here who has never participated in that, you have to do it. There's no greater organization than Special Olympics. There just isn't. As far as your group, I think that there should have been more arrests. But
we were pretty good this year.
The police got tired, and they said, let's just let them go. There were more wet towels in our buildings than ever before. My grandfather was actually one of the original polar bear plungers in Brooklyn, and I promise you, I never go in the water unless that temperature starts with a 7, not with a 3. Or I don't know how you did. You do it?
Yes.
You did plunge.
Yes.
I mean, how is it?
Cold.
But I mean, is it all? I mean, don't you feel like you're having a stroke?
No, I've learned how to do it over the years. I just walk in. My husband runs in and swims.
We're gonna miss
I
him.
just
We are
walk
gonna
in
miss your
and
husband.
go in calmly.
Well, I have to tell you, thank you so much for it. Thank you for asking a question, but thank you so much for doing that for Special Olympics. It's an important cause. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right.
We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to the Tim McLoone Radio Show from Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park, New Jersey. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Tim McLoone Radio Show, broadcasting you from Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park, New Jersey. Back for this segment is John Tropea, and with John is Tommy McDonnell. He's the lead singer with the Blues Brothers Band, as well as the John Tropea Band, and they're going to play a little something for us. Here's your host, Tim McLoone.
Yeah. John Tropea, you're pretty darn good, man, I'll tell you.
And so are you, my friend.
You're very forgiving, too. I remember you playing here with me one night, and you said, this is a simple song. What was the one? It's one of your ones you do all the time.
Old School.
Old School, right? And what key does that start in?
Starts in E.
It starts in E, and it stays there for about 4 seconds. He says, oh, it's blues in E. Don't worry about a thing. We're in E for 4 seconds, and it modulates to something else. I have no idea where I am.
Yeah, but you got it, though.
I got it about half an hour later. It was not a good moment for me. But you brought somebody along with you, so what are we going to do
I
here?
brought my friend Tommy McDonnell, the lead singer with the Blues Brothers.
He's probably no longer your friend after doing this
Well,
gig.
he's still talking to me.
He's getting dinner, though, right? So
We're about to go on tour in June for a month in Europe. And
So if people want to get some of your material, if they want to get some of your music, how do they find you, John Tropea?
JohnTropea.com.
And that's TROPEA.com. Right. And you do have the H in John. You didn't go for the affected JON thing like so many people do.
J-O-H-N. Yep.
J-O-H-N. My son is J-O-N.
Then I take it back because it's a lovely way of spelling that name. Well, you're going to lead us out with a little bit of blues that Tom's going to join us on?
Yeah, we're going to do a little Messin' with the Kid from the Blues Brothers movie.
There you go. Let's hit it now.
What's this out here? They're talking all around town. Said people say you try to put the kid down. Yeah, yeah. Tell me what you did.
Oh, baby.
You can call it what you want. Yeah, I call it messing with the kid. Yeah, the kid plays hot. I said hot don't pay. I say what I mean, babe. I mean what I say. Yeah, yeah. Tell me what you did. can call it what you want. Yeah, I call it messing with the kid. Come on, John.
John Tropea, here we go. That's that sound we love.
Yeah, tell me you love me. You tell me a lie. You know I love you, baby, till the day I die. Oh, yeah. Say, tell me what you did. You can call it what you want. Yeah, I call it messing with the kid. Take the kid's car, drive all around town. Come down to Tim McLoon's, get the blues on, yeah, yeah. So tell me what you did. Oh, baby. You can call it what you want. Yeah, I call it messing with the kid.
So next week we're going to have on this show the Super Bowl champion and four-time Pro Bowler, Phil Villapiano. We're also going to have Bruce Foster, a great musician in his own right. Masters of Music, Leslie West on Friday, May the 17th. And then we're going to have Joe Piscopo Comedy Night all summer long. Check out our website for the dates that Joe Piscopo and some of his friends are going to be here. Thank you for tuning in today and sharing this hour with us. Tune in every Saturday afternoon from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. right here on WOR 710 a.m. and on iHeartRadio. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at Tim McLoone Radio. The accounts and descriptions of this broadcast are the property of the Tim McLoone Broadcasting Company. The retransmission or rebroadcast of any part.
This?
Yes, we do, Tim.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
God.
it's all ours. The Tim McLoone Radio Show without express written consent of McLoone Broadcasting is strictly prohibited. The executive producer is myself, Paul Diamini. The coordinating producer is Virginia Sanderson. The technical director and associate producer is Dana Noto. Our sound engineers tonight are John Grubb and Thomas Bishop. For Tim McLoone, I'm Paul Diamini, and we will see
That's
you
a
next
lot of stuff
week
you read.
on the radio.
That's it, baby.
All right. John Tropea.
Yeah,
Eric
Tim
Donald.
McLoone, yeah, yeah.
Right on.